to visit your website. Did you know that you can create a whole strategy with calls to actions on Instagram? Hey, would you love to be able to drive traffic and close sales faster than ever on Instagram? Well, I know I would. So today we're going to be talking about that. Hello, folks. I'm Jeff C., and I'm here with my co-host Rebecca Radice and Kristen Dolan. We're so very happy to have you on today. We want you to make this your own show. So as we're going along, will you please ask us questions down below, and we'll try to pull in as many as we can today. And as always, if you hear just a genius or a just amazing nugget of information from these girls, just make sure you put hashtag Tailwind Tips to your comments, and we will pick that up in our chat, and you will be able to win maybe one of these selfie lights. We'll have a drawing. If you put the hashtag Tailwind Tip, we're going to draw at the end of our show and give these out. They're very, very cool. They even make me look not so scary with good lighting. So we're so happy to have you here today. And so one of the things that we are really wanting to talk to you about today, and it's pretty exciting. I don't know if you've been to our shows recently. We've been talking about something that allows you to create a branded landing page on Instagram that sends a never-ending stream of traffic on your Instagram bio. This is so cool. I pushed so hard to get this because they had it open in beta, and they wouldn't let me in for some reason because I tend to break things. But you guys want to make sure they say it's forever free, and it's very, very cool. So go to bit.ly/smartbio. That's bit.ly/smartbio and sign up because it is so cool. And we're going to be talking about that today. So ladies, how are you guys doing? We've had some issues at the beginning of the show, but it's all, I spilled water on my keyboard. We had no sound. It's just one of those days, people. Yeah.
That's right. But we're here.
That's right.
Woo-hoo!
That's right. So we are going to be talking all about calls to action. So if you hear us say CTAs today, that's what calls to action is. You know, when I first got started, I had to look that up. I had to Google it. But we're talking about CTAs with style and how we can call our followers to action all on today's show. So if you have some questions about the best kind of call to actions, like I said, drop those down below and we will try to answer those. But so let's just get started. Let's jump right into it. Rebecca, what is a call to action? For those of us who just have no idea, what's a call to action?
That's a really good place to start, right? So a call to action is just any term, any phrase that encourages your audience to take an action. So as we talk about Instagram, it could be something like check out my latest post. It could be click that link in my bio. It could be go to my website, check out my course. So there's a ton of different ways we can use those calls to action. And of course, we use them all over the place, right? Not just on Instagram, but they are a wonderful way for us to eliminate any confusion. So take away the idea that our audience is just going to automatically know what we want them to do, and instead give them a very clear directive. So let them know that, hey, I wrote this brand new blog post today, or I created this brand new video and it's up on YouTube, or yeah, I created a brand new course for you. You can find it over on my website. So whatever the case might be, that call to action is your way to create clarity in the mind of your audience so that they know exactly what you want them to do, what that next step is, and how they're going to go about doing that. And I think too often, Jeff, and you might agree with this, we leave that to chance. We think that they just automatically know what we want that next step to be or what action we want them to take. And a call to action really simplifies that and allows us to clearly communicate what it is we want our audience to do.
Yeah, and there's an art to writing good ones, and I think, you know, the more you do it, the better it is. And actually, there's a kind of an art to do it on different platforms. And so we're going to jump in that today. But I do want to bring some of our audience on here today. I want to bring on Sharon says, excited to learn something new. Well, I'm excited too. I always learn something new on these shows. And about Smart Bio, Karen says, yes, she loves it. And so I am a lot of people are excited to do this, and let me pull up some other ones. This is a great question from Brianne. She says this, and you might want to touch on this a little bit, Rebecca. She goes, how many calls to action are too much per week without seeming like you're too sales oriented for your audience? So how would you answer that, Rebecca?
Well, if you're posting, let's just use Instagram as an example again. If you're posting to Instagram on a daily basis, every single post needs a call to action. You should not be writing something that does not incorporate that action. It could just simply be that you're asking a question of your audience. It could just be that you're highlighting one of your audience members and you're asking your audience if they relate, to that story or to the challenge or the struggle. So don't think about it as a call to action always being promotional, because it absolutely does not have to be. It just has to be conversational. You're creating an interactive nature within that conversation when you have a call to action. So that might be part of it too, is we need to strip away the idea that it's simply business-based or that it is simply to promote something going on within our business. And I know that's a lot of the examples I gave, but it definitely does not have to be. And if you want to engage your audience, if you want to pull people out of the shadows, because we know how that goes, right? We got a lot of lurkers out there that they're reading, but they're not necessarily engaging. And the only way you're going to pull them into that conversation is to start to ask those questions. And so think of those calls to action as that as well.
So here's a great question, and I hope I get the name right. It's Taiwo Campson. She goes, I'm a food blogger, and I post pictures of food and all that on my Instagram and struggling with proper calls to action for my audience, and views have been dropping. What can I do? So how would you answer it, Kristen?
Yeah,
let's have Kristen answer, and then I want to jump back to you. Yeah, I want to hear what Kristen would say.
I'm just like, boom.
I know. This is an exciting topic for all of us. So, Kristen, what would you say for someone who's doing a food blog and needs some help with their calls to action?
Yeah, I think, and so we might caroom a little bit all over the structure of the agenda here, because we've touched on a lot of the topics that we want to cover with you guys, and a lot of these questions, which are really common, as far as like how many is too many CTAs? Do they all have to be sales based? How do I relate to my audience? And I think with a food blogger and with a food blog, it would be similar. It's what exactly is the action that you're wanting your followers to take. And so whether it's, engagement is another purpose for a CTA. And so you might experiment with, like, what do you think of recipes like this? Or what's a holiday treat that you want to try or that you'd like to see me review or make, or whatever that looks like? That's also a CTA as well. You can get comments and likes and interaction from your audience, and then, guidance for maybe content that you either review a food place or you make a recipe or something, but you're also finding out a way to provide what your audience wants to see more of. And then whenever they see that, right, whenever you're posting, something that's in reaction to something that your audience has already said they want to see, they're more inclined probably to go ahead and visit your blog to see more of that. And so, and if it's, you're wanting to drive them to your blog post, it's playing with different types of CTAs, which I think we'll jump into a little bit later. And that's, can you tell a story that they will emotionally connect with, and that they have to find out more about this recipe or about this piece to kind of fulfill whatever it is they're looking for? Or, something along those lines. You could do a cliffhanger where it's like you're telling a story and they just have to know what the rest of that story is. And to find it, they would visit your blog. So sometimes we get caught in a cycle of just saying, tap the link in my bio or visit my website or swipe up to see this, but we're not providing enough context or enough buy-in for our followers to actually want to take that action.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Rebecca, I know you wanted to have some thoughts on this too. So what would you say for a food blogger, struggling with calls to action?
Yeah, I think everything that Kristen just offered is spot on. Food bloggers, I wanted to jump in because with Smart Bio, we've been seeing a lot of food bloggers are using Smart Bio. And for those that don't know, so we just launched Smart Bio. It is a link in bio tool for Instagram, meaning you've got that one link and that one opportunity to drive people to your content. And what Smart Bio does is it takes all of your Instagram posts, consolidates them into one landing page that's branded to your business. And so food bloggers, I really notice, are really adopting this because of this exact reason, where first of all, it creates this beautiful feed of mouth-watering recipes or just foodie ideas. So I have one LA food blogger that I follow here locally in LA, and same situation where they're constantly trying to drive people to their latest post, to their latest recipe, to that latest restaurant they went out to that they're talking about, that they're reviewing. So a tool like Smart Bio can give you really a leg up on the competition, because not only are you able to drive people to very specific links or properties, say your website or your blog or your YouTube channel, like I mentioned before, but you're able to pull in all of those food posts and then add very specific links to those. So as people click that link in your bio, they go over to your Smart Bio, they now have access to anywhere you want to drive that traffic to. So it's just a simplified way of being able to get traffic over to your most important content, and then also be able to start to track those conversions. And I know that's a frustration for a lot of us too over on Instagram. It's how to actually prove ROI. How do I prove that people are taking action on my content? And I know we're going to get into, not maybe today, but there is a whole idea or strategy behind how you're using a tool like Smart Bio in kind of cooperation with Tailwind and scheduling, and just so many different ways that you can start to simplify your process, but also really see the value in how much time you're spending on Instagram, what action people are actually taking, and what kind of content they're truly looking for you from you too, which of course it does come back to that too.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. And I want to bring up some people who you can't beat what people are saying. So I wanted to bring up some people who have been talking about Smart Bio. And like Lisa Diller says, she goes, I love Smart Bio already. Deb says, I love Smart Bio. And like even Sarah says, Smart Bio is the best. So easy to set up and use. So much better than the other tools out there. So that is very cool. Thank you so much for all you guys talking about it and loving it. Now, I wanted to ask this question since you kind of brought it up a little bit, and this is from Leela Diller says this too. She goes, how many button links are optimal and not overwhelming? And I'm assuming she means inside of when you go into Smart Bio, you're able to create those button links. How many do you think are optimal? Is there a limit, or what do you guys suggest on that?
Kristen, you want to take that, or you want me?
You can probably jump in on this afterwards, but I think for button links, it also depends a lot on what type of content you're promoting in terms of button links. Like, for example, I would like to use button links for more evergreen content or places that I always want to send my followers. So that might be like sign up for your newsletter, or visit, like, or linking other social channels. If you have a YouTube channel, for example, places that you're always going to want to send them versus with post images, that could link directly to like we were talking about in the previous example, a recipe or something seasonal, something that may not be at the top of your blog or your website page forever. And so that kind of depends. That might sort of speak to exactly how many buttons that you have at the top. If you have an overwhelming amount of evergreen links that you always want to send people to, you can have a full Smart Bio page full of buttons if that's what you like. I know there are a lot of different LinkedIn profile tools that are just buttons. Or if you want to only have post links, you can do that as well. So it really, I think for me, depends on what your content strategy is, what type of content you're often promoting. In terms of, I think, visual aesthetics, I really like to see Smart Bios where there's maybe 4 or 5 evergreen button links at the top, and then the post images, so that both types are visible and there's enough visual interest to engage all kinds of audiences. Sometimes a full page of buttons may not be the biggest draw for your audience, depending on what your content is. Like with a food blog, for example, I'd probably rather see delicious, mouth-watering images in that page versus a bunch of buttons. So it really depends on what works for you, but I personally love to see like half and half where you can see all of that content.
Very cool. So Rebecca, what are your thoughts on how many buttons are too many? And I thought that was a great point, Kristen, that you made, that it depends a lot on your brand. It depends, like if you said, if you're wanting to share those mouth-watering, chicken recipes, which I would click on, of course.
It's lunchtime. Don't do
I
that.
know, I'm starving. So that makes a lot of sense. I think that was a great point. So Rebecca, what are your thoughts on, the best ways to optimize, the way that Smart Bio looks?
Well, and it's interesting because I've really recognized as I'm looking through all of those different people out there, different businesses that are using these, Kristen is exactly right. It really depends on your business and your industry and where you're looking to drive people. So, for example, I was looking at a business coach yesterday, and she's also a speaker. And so she was very interested in driving people to her speaking landing page, in moving people over to her social properties. So some social proof that she's very interactive with her audience. So she was saying, connect with me on YouTube, find me over on Instagram. But then again, you're going to have those people like photographers that might have a portfolio, or wedding photographers that want people to be able to see their work and exactly what that could look like if they were to photograph your wedding. So it's just really going to depend on what's important. What is important for your audience to know about you, to learn about you, to really understand about you, to build that know, like, and trust factor, so that they can take that next step as we talk about calls to action. And of course, we're talking about it in context of Smart Bio. Just to give you an idea, certainly that link that Jeff was sharing, you can see kind of at a glimpse what it looks like. But if you want to see ours, you can go to smart.bio/Tailwind app. And within that, you can see exactly how we're using it. So what we're talking about here is you have those links right up top that are your most important calls to action that you can drive people to. So it could be what I was talking about, sign up for a free call with me today kind of thing. Or it could be check out my portfolio. It could be connect with me on YouTube. And then down below, you have everything you've ever posted on Instagram that you can pull in, and you can add a separate call to action with a button that drives people to whatever that URL is that you've attached to that image. So it really does go back to who you are, what you do, what you sell, or who you help, and what's going to matter most to them about you and your business, and what is it that you need to call out right away. What is it that is the most important thing that they could ever click on, the one, and I would really think about it in terms of 1, 2, so it's right up there at the top, that one action that you want people to take above anything else.
Very cool. So yeah, so Smart Bio really is the easiest way to send traffic from Instagram to your like best converting content and your latest posts. And did we mention that it's free? Yeah, it's free. So if you want to sign up for this, go to bit.ly/smartbio. That's all lowercase. That's bit.ly/smartbio. It is very, very cool. A lot of people, we've already brought up their comments saying how much they love it and how easy it is. And it's free, which you just can't beat free. So make sure you guys go there and check that out. So we're going to go ahead and move on to some of our other questions or kind of points about what it takes to create a great call to action. And, you know, it is a struggle, and that's why so many, you know, a lot of people have been using these, like Kristen mentioned, the link in bio kind of third-party add-ons, because it really is hard to get traffic from Instagram, because you have that one link. Especially if you don't have the swipe up on stories, you just have that one link that you can put stuff to. So how do you get people, you know, from your posts to the profile? What's the best way to like optimize? Everybody says just put LinkedIn profile. Is that just standard, or there are some better calls to actions you can use to help drive people to your profile page? What are your thoughts on that, Kristen?
So I think first, it makes sense to kind of talk about why it's so difficult to get traffic from Instagram to any link that you share. And so one of those reasons is, right, if you think about how you interact with Instagram as you're scrolling through your feed, as you're reading, you know, if you don't like a piece of content, or if you just feel kind of like, whatever about a piece of content, you just keep scrolling. And that's the same for stories. You just tap to the next story and you can consume all of this content just mindlessly almost. You get into a rhythm of what you're seeing. And so it's so easy for somebody to see like a simple CTA, like we're talking about, like tap my link in bio to learn more. And that just, they see it so often maybe that there's like a CTA fatigue. It doesn't grab their interest, and it doesn't disrupt what they're doing enough to stop, look, and go. They often just keep scrolling. So that's why it's really important to create CTAs and captions that tell a story, that create an emotional connection, that make people literally stop their thumbs mid-scroll as they're going through Instagram and really take a moment to decide, is this an action I want to take? Am I interested enough? And then to jump over to that link. And so that's kind of why you're disrupting a whole kind of mindless habit, a workflow, whenever you're speaking to people on Instagram and trying to move the traffic. And that's somewhat where that resistance comes from. And you can really combat that, I think, with, like I was saying, different types of CTAs, maybe like a cliffhanger or something where you're telling this story or this fascinating thing and you just stop. And to learn more, they have to go to your link in bio, go to your blog post, go to your product page, or you're creating emotional connection, or you're somehow painting a picture with your product or with your blog of how this will make their life better, how this relates to them, and why they would want to go and click.
Those are great ideas. Rebecca, what are your thoughts? I know you have a ton of them, so because you're very creative on this. So what is the best way to get people to actually your profile page? I mean, do you say, but wait, there's more, click in bio? I mean, what do you do? What is your strategy to get people? Because one of the cool things that if you do get them to your profile page, you've already like, they're warm prospects, they're hot prospects, they're you know, if they've taken that step on Instagram, then they're really interested in your content. So what wording or what little magic do you weave to get them to jump over to your profile?
Well, I think a lot of those are those action words, right? Where we are encouraging them to go get something, to buy something, to shop, to build, to whatever those fun words are that we're all trying to use all the time. But I do think it goes back to the story we're telling as well. And that's really what Instagram is all about. It's a platform where we're telling a bigger story. We're telling a more personal story. We're telling a deeper story where people are really able to connect with us and better understand us. And so those calls to action need to be a natural extension extension of that story as well. So I think too often we get a little too carried away or too clever in what those calls to action need to be, when they can be as simple as getting to the end of your story and saying, you know, I just wrote something all about this. I know you're going to truly appreciate digging in even deeper. If this spoke to you, you know, click the link in my bio, or you know, take that next step, whatever that case might be. And again, don't get so wrapped up in what are the exact words as what is that story you're telling, and how does that next action fit into that? Because that's another problem too. There can be a major disconnect when we've got a post and we're telling people to take action, and then the expectation doesn't meet what we just talked about within that post. So we've got to be very careful too that our CTAs are very closely aligned with what we were just talking about within our description, within our content. So this goes back even further for me to, what is your overall strategy? What is it that you're talking about on a daily basis on Instagram? Is there a common thread between the story you told yesterday and the day before and the day before that? Can people really start to understand who you are, who you help, what you do within your business, and why they would ever want to work with you, why they would ever want to hire you? And when you start to think about those things, your calls to action get a little bit easier, because you start to think about, okay, I'm a business coach. What are the 5 actions I would always want people to take? Well, maybe it's that you want them to text you to set up a time to talk. Maybe you want them to email you. Maybe you want them to DM you. So just get really simple in your own mind about what it is that you do, how people go about working with you, and then how are you going to create a call around that. I don't know if that specifically answers your question, Jeff, but I think I think oftentimes we need to take a step back and almost simplify what we're doing, because we get so wound tight around this call to action.
And I think it's important too that we remember we're thinking as marketers, and we really need to always be training our brain to thinking about what the end user is and what they're doing. And so I think your point of being sometimes overthinking it, and maybe sometimes we just need to be simple, or like go here to find out more, or whatever is exactly. I think that's a good thing, that sometimes we make it harder than it is, because we're marketers and that's what we do.
Well, I think we're humans, and by nature we tend to do that, right? To where instead of go A to B, we're like, let's go A to W, back to R, and we're just all over the place.
Exactly.
When it could be really, really simple.
Exactly. Well, I want to bring up a great question. It's very specific from, I think it's Ty. She goes, if a large part of my Instagram strategy is reposting customers using our product, what's a good way to add a call to action to a repost? And should it go at the top of the post or after the reposted account's caption? So that's very specific on where to put the call to action. And and we're going to dive right into this. Is it a good idea to put a call to action on every post? And I think she's kind of asking that question as well. So what would you tell her, Rebecca? I'll go with you first, and then we'll jump over to Kristen.
Well, yeah, and I was actually going to send this one over to Kristen, because she deals with it every day, because there's 2 different ways to look at this, and maybe I'm wrong, Kristen, but you've got your post, your feed, so depending on how you're sharing that within your feed or within your stories, which we know, you can add your own text around that. But yeah, it depends on exactly what your business is and what you are sharing. But more than likely, it sounds like this is somebody using your product. So they're excited. They're out there in the wild. They are expressing their joy and their love of that particular product. So your call to action more than likely will be how they can go find that particular product. So if you have hundreds of different products, you want to make sure that if you're using a tool like Smart Bio, that you've got that right in there with the link out to that particular product. Because the worst part that we can ever do with a call to action is not be clear in where they need to head. So if it's your widget that they're wanting to find, give them the exact link to that widget so they don't have to hunt and peck. They don't have to go out there and find it, because if they've got to search for it, what ends up happening? They're Googling and potentially finding your competition. So I think that's a really important point, but that's not specific. I'm going to let Kristen kind of take the specifics of how to craft that post.
Yes, Kristen, what would you tell her about, she's reposting customers using their product, and this is from Ty, and she goes, what's a good way to add a call to action to a repost, and should it go to the top of the post or after the reposted account's caption? Just to
Okay. Thank you. So this is a really, really good question. And I actually remember talking about this with Chloe, I believe, on the last live she was on, because she reposts other accounts very frequently. And so one thing to keep in mind here is that we want to be respectful always of other content creators, even if they're promoting our product. And so you should definitely include your call to action in the caption if it makes sense. But you should do it after the original caption. And if you need to provide some kind of context for your users, for example, if it's like, oh my gosh, I love this company because of X, Y, and Z, you can introduce that user who made that content, tag them and say, this is what so-and-so had to say about our product, or this is why she loves it, or like, these are her thoughts. Or something similar to that. Then you would include what is in the caption, at least the main part of it, the main points. Try not to edit too much. And then afterwards, if it's something that makes sense, if it's a product that you can promote, that you can link to on your site, if it's a blog post that she's talking about specifically, something like that, you could say to find out what so-and-so is talking about, or to see more about this, or see this piece of content or this product that inspired this review or this caption, go to my link in bio. And then you want to link that post. It's UGC, user-generated content, is amazing, and it is such a gift, I think, to bloggers and companies, but we just want to make sure that we are not just taking somebody's image and then using it entirely for our own purposes, unless it makes sense. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. If it's some kind of review on, your company as a whole, or your blog, or just you, as in like, this person is so inspiring, you can also make a call to action there that's, go check out this person's profile, or go see this thing, check her out, and build. And maybe your CTA there is building community, is featuring that person, and kind of just strengthening that perception, I think, in your community of how you view your product users or your readers and that community around you, because that's going to be just as effective for your image as a business in a strategy as it is to send traffic to your website or to sales. So that's something to keep in mind there too, is that, like we were saying before, a CTA doesn't always have to be a hard sell. It could be another action that supports another part of your marketing strategy on Instagram, whether that's to build your community, to get engagement, to get additional feedback, something like that. You can use that content for that as well.
Awesome. So if
that
you're just,
a lot. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was great. That was a very specific question, and you gave a very specific answer. It was awesome. So, if you're just joining us, we're talking all about calls to action on Instagram today. And another part we're talking about is this awesome thing called Smart Bio, which is totally free from Tailwind. You can go to bit.ly/smart bio. That's bit.ly /smart bio, and it allows you to swap out your profile link, so you don't have to do this every time. It does it for you, so you don't have to change that link out every time you post. It's very, very cool. We've got a ton of people who have tried it. I want to pull some of these up here from Macy. She goes, let's see here. Oh, hit the wrong button. Where did it go? Here it is. Send. Oh, I just set up Smart Bio in less than 5 minutes. Mind blown. Yes. Hashtag mind blown. Isn't that cool? I think that is really cool.
I love it.
Ruth says, Smart Bio is ingenious. Thanks, Tailwind. Dana says, so easy, awesome. And just so many people are, like Shelly goes, I'm obsessed with the Smart Bio tool. It's converting into actual sales for my business. The other link in Bio tools never converted into any sales. That is awesome, Shelly. That is what we want to hear. We won't mention those other
Shelley,
tools,
that's
but
amazing.
that is very cool. Yes, very cool. So here's a great question, since we're talking a little bit about Smart Bio, and I'm going to send this over to Kristen because it's kind of, this will be an easy one for you, so I'll make sure you get it right. Jarmila says, is there a way to tell how many times the Smart Bio links have been clicked on our account? A market analysis of sorts? This is awesome. This is another awesome thing about Smart Bio, so I wanted to let you it's very, very cool. So go ahead and take this one, Kristen.
Yes, the short answer is yes, but it does show you the stats of how many people click on either those button links or on your individual post links. It also shows you how many people have visited your Smart Bio. It keeps a running count at the top of your page whenever you're scheduling links, things like that, so it's easily visible. So it shows you how many people have visited your page and how many people have actually clicked through on a link, and then displays a overall click-through rate for you in a percentage. So you can kind of check the health a little bit of how those CTAs on your Smart Bio are working, whether a certain button is working, whether you might want to consider playing with the title of it, maybe adding an emoji, which you can also do to those button links, or maybe converting it to a post link, or maybe removing it completely if it's just not working for you and using that real estate for something else. But it show you all of the clicks that you get, as well as how long I believe those buttons have been live on your Smart Bio. So you can kind of use that to strategize even further. You don't just have to throw up a link and pray it works. You can really mess with it and really optimize to get the most clicks possible to improve your click-through rating and really health check how you're doing.
Awesome. I knew you could get it. I knew it was you had all the facts.
Nailed it.
I could have said, yes, you can, but you went even further. That's very, very cool. Thanks. So we've talked a little bit about you don't necessarily need to have a call to action on every single piece of Instagram content. So how do you decide whether your content needs a call to action or not? So Rebecca, I'll let you take this one. So how do we know that this piece of content is worthy of a call to action?
Well, and like I said at the beginning, I would argue that every piece needs a call to action. If you think about it in terms of what exactly those calls to action are. Are they promotional? Are they inspirational? Are they motivational? And what I mean by that is, are you sharing a part of your journey within your business? Your call to action might simply be asking people if they can relate, if they've ever run across the same situation. It could be that you're sharing a tool within your business that you just learned all about and asking people what tools that they use on a daily basis. So you need to think in terms of that call to action as simply a way to inspire that interaction with your audience. So if you think about it in those terms, then every single post has a call to action, and it just depends on what the flow of your content is. So do you have one promotional piece one day, an educational piece on Tuesday, then you've got an inspirational piece, then you're coming back to promotional. So that goes back to your content calendar and thinking about how many different products or different online properties do you have that you're asking people to visit, and then what exactly do those calls to action look like? So maybe we're a little bit different, Jeff and Kristen, in our feelings on this, but I believe that an interactive community is generated through conversation, and conversation happens when we are asking those questions, and questions are basically just another version of a call to action.
That's great. I'm glad I'm not in between you two, so there like there's no fighting going on between the different.
That's right.
But it's all right. It's, everybody, we all have. I mean, different things work for different brands and different people. So I think it all, and we have said this over and over on this show, is you have to try things to see what works and what works for you. And so I can't do everything Rebecca says, or I will be in trouble, and I can't do everything that Kristen says, but I can take different aspects of both things and make it work specifically for me and my brand. So I thought those were great. So we talked about, we've talked a lot this show about why it's so important to have a link in bio tool, and why not get one that's free by going to bit.ly.com, bit.ly/smart bio, because it's free. Did I mention it's free? And it's awesome. So go there and sign up. But it's very important to have that, because it lets you, one, it's a lot easier. You have something, it's always there. You don't have to be up. I remember having to do this from Instagram, is whenever you had a new blog post, you'd go up there and you'd put a new bit.ly link up there. You don't have to worry about that right now with this tool. But one of the things that, I don't know which one of you said this, but not to send it always to your website. Why would you have links to other places? So I'm really interested on your and you kind of, I think, Kristen, you mentioned that because you want to use user-generated content, or maybe highlight somebody else. What are some other reasons why you wouldn't just always put links back to your website? Kristen.
Okay. I'm going to tie all of this back together real quick with what Rebecca is saying. Back to the previous point of whether or not you need a CTA on your caption. And so I think whenever people, we kind of mentioned before, whenever people think about CTAs, it's automatically tap my link in bio to go somewhere. And that's sometimes to people, that's the threshold. That's what counts as a CTA. To us, and I agree with Rebecca, even getting engagement, spotlighting a member, building community, and just inspiring any kind of action is a CTA, to me at least. And I think Rebecca can agree with that. And so I think what we mean, and this also ties into why you don't just want to send people to your website. I like to think of it that there are three kind of buckets, or like a litmus test of what kind of CTA I would put on a caption. And so if I think that the post and the content, the image supports either a blog post or a product or something featured on my website, I want to send traffic there. But I want to make sure that I'm meeting expectations. And I believe Rebecca also touched on this earlier, that whenever people get there to that page, they're not disappointed because they expected something else and they're now getting this. That's the absolute last thing that you want to do. You do not want to disappoint your followers or alienate them, or make it so that they don't believe your sensational CTAs, and then they get to the page and it just doesn't support it. And so I think you have to judge your content on Instagram as to whether, yes, this ties into this blog post, this is a strong feature, this really underlines the message that I'm trying to say, and they will be satisfied whenever they go to this page, this blog post, or this product. They have not been, deceived in any way, or they won't feel that way. If your content doesn't feel strong enough for that, that's okay too. You can opt out not to send them to your website. You can instead ask a question and get engagement, because as we know, Instagram loves engagement, right? You get those likes and those comments, those sends and those saves, and Instagram's algorithm is really happy with that. And so that is also helpful to your marketing as well. So if what you're posting, if it's that UGC piece that we talked about before, or if it's just a backstage photo or just a spur of the moment picture that you want to put up for some reason, but it's not strong enough to support that content, don't send it to your website. Just use that CTA to engage with your followers in some way. But the reason that you don't want to just put your website in the link part of your bio and then call it done is that once you have clued your followers in that you want to send them somewhere, and you've told them what they're going to find and they're excited about it, if you send them to your website and you have a ton of product pages and a ton of blog posts, maybe you've even published additional blog posts since that one you were talking about, and they can't find it, every second that they're looking at your website or sorting through your website trying to find what they're looking for is another chance for them to give up and leave. And so that's why you don't want to put your website, just your website with no specific pages in your bio, because you want to send them exactly where they want to go with as few obstacles and as few U-turns or, detours as possible to get what they want and then further get what you want, which is either web traffic or sales or both. So that's kind of why I was the one who said that. But that is why I said, do not put just your website in your Instagram bio. And people, I think, who have also been burned by this before, who have gone to a website and been unable to find whatever it is they're looking for, are probably less likely to click on your website because they already assume that that's going to happen again, that they are not going to be directed to the thing that they are specifically looking for, whether it's that blog post or a product, and they've already given up in their minds before they've begun. And so we want to get around that, and we want to make driving traffic in that end destination as easy as possible.
That's great. That's great. Those are great tips. I mean, wow, I think maybe you prepared for that one. I'm not sure, but
she feels just a little passionate about that.
A little bit. So
I
Rebecca,
have a soapbox I keep under the table.
You're standing on right now. Yeah, I got you. No, I totally get it. So, Rebecca, I want to ask you, there's a specific question, and Ty is asking these, and I think it's awesome that she's being so specific. She says, what are your thoughts on using emoticons to draw attention to your calls to action? For example, using something like this, and she has the arrow down emoji, read the blog in all caps, and then the other arrow down emoji. So what would you say about that, using kind of these visual elements in your calls to action?
I would say yes, yes, yes. They are fun, they're interesting, they're engaging, and they're just a very visual way for us to point out, here's where I want you to go, what I want you to do. And the nice part about it too is they create kind of that visual line break within Instagram as well. So yeah, I would not be afraid to use those at all within your call to action. I'd test them out throughout your entire description and your caption. I think they're also a way for people to get a sense of our personality. I know we've talked about this on previous Facebook Lives, where they can quickly share a feeling, a mood, an emotion, a mood that, Kristen would know nothing about. She and I have joked, we can talk simply in emojis
Right.
or GIFs, depending on our mood. So I think they really create a pretty cool connection too with people, where all of a sudden you could do that whole conversation in, what is your mood today? All I want to know is drop in, your favorite emoji, and have a blast with that. I know we did that in our Facebook group, and oh my gosh, I think there was hundreds of comments, because
Right.
we do, we love to share all about us, but we also love to be able to tie our emotion to something that just is directly representative. So I love the idea. I say go for it. Back to Jeff and what he said. Test, see what works. But don't shy away from them. I do hear from some people, well, I'm a very professional brand. There's plenty that you can use that might not be as silly or as playful, but could still get your point across.
I think those are great points. I do want to ask this question, since we've talked a lot about calls to action today, and then Smart Bio, which you can get at bit.ly/Smart Bio. But one of the things is Smart Bio is totally free, but it also works really well with Tailwind. And there's that special thing that you can do inside of Tailwind if you're scheduling your Instagram posts. So, Kristen, can you tell us a little bit what that feature is? Because it's very, very cool, and I'm really excited about it. But I mean, you talk to us about that a little bit.
I assume that you are referring to being able to automatically schedule your links on the page using Tailwind.
That is it.
Okay.
Yes.
I was like,
that was a sneak attack there, but I knew you could handle it.
I know, mysterious buildup.
Right.
But yes, it's true. So with Smart Bio, if you are not currently using Tailwind to schedule, you can always go to your Smart Bio landing page and drop in a link after the post is live.
Right.
And then it will appear on the page and easy peasy. But whenever you do schedule with Tailwind, you do have the option. There is a line for your Smart Bio link in your drafts. Whenever you're scheduling your post, you upload your image, write your caption, and then right underneath that is a Smart Bio link section where you would just drop in whatever link that you are hoping to send followers to, right in there. And then whenever your post goes live, whether you use push notifications or whether you use auto posting, which I do, that's a lifesaver. Right. We've talked about that. It will automatically appear on your Smart Bio feed as soon as that post goes live. And so that kind of eliminates that additional step of revisiting a tool or using multiple tools to link your page and trying to remember, I think, which I'm terrible at, is after I put up a post, I'm like, oh no, like I forgot to add the link. And then that's 30 minutes, 2 hours, 6 hours of there not being a link there. And I'm sorry, of that CTA being ineffective because you're like, go click the link in my bio and then there's nothing there. And I will say I have been the worst about that. I'm very forgetful, especially whenever there are additional steps to take, which is why scheduling with Tailwind and just being able to do it right there is a lifesaver.
Yes. So go, if you have a Tailwind account, don't forget to do that because it does save you a lot of time. So we are wrapping up, getting towards the end, and I'm going to be pulling some questions, but I wanted to have you guys talk about like types of calls to action and maybe some like calls to action inspiration that you have seen or that you have found really that works really, really well for you. So Rebecca, I'll go with you first, and then we'll jump back to Kristen.
Yeah, and I think we talked a little bit about these earlier, but just think about what is it that you're sharing with people. So do you want them to read your latest blog post? Do you want them to check out your latest product? We talked about just a variety of industries too, where maybe you are a photographer and you have a latest picture that you've put up that is also for sale. So just think about how you can perfectly tie that in and also make it inspiring and exciting. I think that's the key there too, is what is it about that is going to really enable people to do more or learn more or be more, or what is it that they're going to be able to get or achieve when they click through to that? So that goes back to everything I think we've talked about here too, is making sure that your call to action is very, very closely tied to whatever that content is. So again, you can get creative, you can have fun with these, you can just really be very, very clear. But I know we are talking a lot about Smart Bio here today, but boy, does it simplify all of this, because all of a sudden you don't have to do what Kristen was talking about and remember to swap out that link every single time, because goodness knows I am just as guilty, terrible at that. But it also means you can do it all in one fell swoop. So if you haven't used Tailwind before, if you go to Smart Bio, you sign up for Smart Bio. As we said, it is free forever, but you also get a free trial of Tailwind as well. So you can try out every single feature within Tailwind, and now you've got the full suite of our Instagram product available to you. So not only do you get to schedule, you can drop that link right in for your Smart Bio. So as you schedule that post to go live on Instagram, it's going to go live on that Smart Bio landing page that you've created. So you don't have to think about it. But more than that, you get access to our hashtag finder. So we've talked a lot about hashtags in the past, but if you struggle to find hashtags, we eliminate all of that frustration. We tell you exactly which hashtags you should target, and then you can create hashtag lists so you can keep that all in one location. So it really becomes your one-stop shop for Instagram marketing. And instead of using so many different tools, we were joking yesterday, just among our team, all of the different tools we've used in the past, everything from Google Docs to Evernote to just Apple Notes, and all of these different places we're keeping all of our hashtags and our descriptions and our captions and everything else. And all of a sudden, you can just simplify your entire workflow and keep it all in one place. So that was a long answer to your really short question, and I'll let
That's great.
Kristen
That's
get
good.
more
No, that's a great wrap up.
on some calls to action.
Yeah. So what's some inspiration, Kristen, for you?
Okay, so I'm going to say two things. First off, whenever you are trying to decide what CTAs might work for you and you're looking for inspiration, just ways to change it up. First off, kind of go through Instagram, see what you're reacting to. I have kind of a reputation on the Tailwind team as being like a major Instagram stalker, especially for just public figures, people who are talking about Instagram, just different perspectives, seeing what's already working out there. And I just love digging in the weeds of different profiles and being like, wow, that's really effective. And then kind of asking myself, like, why is that so effective? Why does that CTA really make me want to click on that thing? Or, wow, that really fell flat. Like, I have absolutely no interest in that link whatsoever. And so whenever you're kind of going through Instagram, whenever you're thinking about CTAs, start looking for inspiration in your own backyard. See how you're reacting to things. See how that would look if you framed it up in a different way for your blog or for your business. I think I sort of beat it to death earlier, but a cliffhanger is always a really good CTA. And that's where you start telling a story and you get to the really juicy part or the really interesting part, and then you stop. And then you tell them to learn more about this or to hear the rest of this story or whatever that looks like for you. You have to tap the link in my bio. Actually using reviews, I've seen has been like really successful, kind of diving into reviews or testimonials or things like that and saying, to find out more about what so-and-so said or like why this was so effective. Tap the link in my bio to learn more, because sometimes whenever we're businesses or we're small businesses or big businesses or we're bloggers, people know that our goal is to get them to our website or to buy our product. And so there's a lot of trust, I think, whenever you're using a review or a testimony or someone who is really excited about your product or your blog or whatever that looks like, whenever you're using their words to drive traffic and to have people connect with, that's always really effective too. So if you have people talking about your products or about your blog or just saying nice stuff about you, experiment with using that as a call to action, as to kind of humanize that and to get that emotional connection and that trust to drive people to your website. And then I would also say that building an emotional connection or creating a situation in which your followers can really see themselves as their lives being better by either reading your blog or having your product, identifying some kind of problem that they have that your product solves in a question. We do this kind of at the beginning of our show, like, would you love to have more traffic from Instagram,
Right.
et cetera? And that's also a really effective way to bring them into the conversation, to have them see themselves in that CTA and then want to learn more.
Very cool.
Right on the wire.
No, yeah, you're great. So I wanted to bring up this really quick from Tia. She goes, Smart Bio has given me so much time back from not having to be sure that I have the correct link when a post comes out. So I think we're not all alone there, because everyone has the same thing. Yes. But also, I wanted to end on this one from Covet Dance. She goes, this is the first time we've watched one of your lives. Thanks for all the Tailwind tips. Wow. Covet Dance, we covet your comments. Thank you so much for doing that. That is awesome. And with that, we appreciate you guys. Make sure that you do go over to bit.ly/smartbio and sign up. It is forever free. We'd love to see you over there on the platform, and let us know how it's working for you. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you later. Bye now.
Bye.